organizational meeting, that's why I'm calling it to order, but we'll elect a chair right now. So entertain nominations for the position of board chair.
Nominate Ann Wiggett, board chair.
Second.
Is there a second? Are there any other nominations?
I'll nominate Kim Woodson.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Do you wish to do this as open ballot or marked ballot? I think you have a choice.
Can you just do all those in favor of the nominee?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those in favor of the nominees presented? Can you do that? I know.
So, did I miss something? We had nomination for chair, and a nomination for vice chair or chair?
We get to do vice chair.
Two chairs, okay. So I'll entertain a motion to end nominations, is that what you, right?
Yeah.
Any other nominations?
No, that could be good.
Okay. Now, my question was, how would you like to vote this? Would you like to vote this by hand, by acclamation, by writing it?
How about all those in favor say
Of what?
of the nominations presented?
We have two nominees for the same position though.
So.
No, you don't.
I thought it was
Chair and vice
chair
chair.
and vice chair.
That's what I just asked. I thought I understood you to say they were both for chair.
I heard,
chair.
They're both for
saying
chair.
Kim for chair, right?
Yeah, I thought she said
Boy.
vice
You
chair.
said Kim for chair?
Well, I did nominate Kim for chair.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so
I had
you're
no
right.
So how do
idea.
you want to split?
Oh, I didn't hear it. I don't know
that's what I
what's
heard.
going on.
Oh, man, am I glad you're on.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Greg. I'm not totally
You're
crazy.
not crazy, that's what I heard too.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, that's why it was like, so we have two individuals nominated for chair. Would you like to vote by acclamation, show of hands, or do you want to write down your choice?
I got you now. Yeah, I didn't hear you.
It's hard.
Show of hands, I'm fine with showing hands.
Okay.
I'm fine.
All those in favor of Ann, please raise your right hand. 3 votes. All those in favor of Kim? 2. Okay, Ann is elected the chair. And
Sorry.
without further fanfare, I will turn the meeting over to our newly elected chair. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'll accept a nomination for vice chair.
I nominate Kim Woodson.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other nominations? Everybody in favor of Kim Woodson as vice chair?
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was
So,
entirely too confusing for the start of the meeting.
That was very confusing.
I know, I'm
Thank you for catching
thinking,
that.
You were right on, Stu, I apologize. You were right on it.
thought that's what I heard, but
I didn't hear it.
so is there any,
I get it.
next thing on the
Yes, you
agenda
got it.
is public input. Is there any public input? Okay, hearing none, I'll need a motion to approve the minutes of February 18th.
Motion to approve minutes from February 18th school board meeting.
Do I hear a second?
Yep, second.
Any errors or omissions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
I'll recluse myself, because I wasn't here, I mean,
Oh, okay.
I
okay.
haven't even seen it yet.
Gotcha,
They're
okay.
not on here, so.
That's okay, Ralph, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, those have been approved. The next item on the agenda is the March 4th school board meeting. Do I hear a nomination?
Minutes.
To approve those.
So moved.
Second?
Any errors, corrections, or omissions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Business report, the manifest are down in front of,
I haven't.
oops,
I
I guess.
had one question
Okay.
on the minutes.
Yes.
I couldn't find them on the school website. Did they not get posted until they've been approved? Okay, that's why I couldn't find them, okay.
Yeah. We'll have to give you a little orientation on how to use the computer and stuff. Thank you. So,
he's pretty good at the Google Docs because of Leaf Hack, I think.
Yeah.
yeah,
He's pretty good at this hack.
so the manifests are going around, Tom, I think you're gonna give us the current budget up
I have
status?
a couple of
Budget
things
update.
for you. You just reviewed, signed off on the infrastructure projects that have been completed so far. When we originally accepted those grants, we established a budget for each of the projects. On your drive, you'll see a sheet called Budget Adjustment. And what I'm doing for the projects that have been completed is adjusting the budget to match the actual. So we're not falsely thinking we have other monies that we can spend on those items. In addition to the individual projects, of course, it means reducing the amount that we expect to receive from the state. Or at least for those projects, we're not going to get the $25,362. So I'm adjusting that revenue line down, and our commitment to 20% is being adjusted downward by the $6,300. Since the total entry exceeds $7,500 threshold, I appreciate your approval.
Everybody had a chance to take a look at that?
That package, got it.
What's in this packet? She's got it right now.
Didn't make it on the drive.
So I'll need a motion to adjust, make the adjustment of $31,702.84.
Yes.
Okay.
Say it again, Ian, what,
That's on your
it's kind of
drive.
mumbled there. Yeah, I got it, but what's the motion?
The motion needs to be, to move from the 3290,004 account, right? Is that right, Tom?
Actually, we can simplify it perhaps and just to adjust the
Okay.
project budgets to actual.
Okay, thank you. All right, I make the motion that we approve the project budget to actual budget.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay.
And we also had sheets before you, I believe, are duplexed. The first side, the wide way, is our current encumbered plus actual transactions compared to the adjusted budget by function code. See, we still have in the bottom corner with $461,000 not yet committed in the current year's operating budget. With the exception of food service, everything is favorable. Well, transportation's a little over. We have another move to make there. Food service, we've got a couple of moves we need to make around to get that working again. But other than that, all of the accounts are fine. On the flip side, perhaps is more meaningful. This is the one that we've been doing for a couple of years now. It's one thing to look at where the budget stands, but we don't really know what yet is out there that is going to be called for in the balance of the year. But this flip side compares this March to last March. Presumably, we should be in basically the same place. And you can see in total, about $58,000 more than we had spent by this time last March. Those functions that have a variance of plus or minus greater than 50,000, I've detailed a little bit more at the bottom. So you can see that in general ed, we've got 183,649 favorable to last year. In the first section under significant variances, shows that it's up 112,569 for salaries. And I do that for the areas that have significant variances. In total, on a $15.5 million general fund budget, I think we're in pretty good shape. You also have a copy of 46 pages now, I believe. Which is all each account as it stands as of last night. That's for your reading pleasure. Feel free to send comments, questions, or by email later on during the week. Any questions now?
No, I do have one question, it's not necessarily, well, part of it's for you, Tom, the other part I think would be for, maybe Greg can help answer this, with Jen not here. How are we seeing the difference, this is the first year with the new food vendor, correct?
Yes.
Are we seeing any change, anything, are we seeing positive things from the food? Are we seeing positive things financially?
Financially, I think we're in better shape.
Okay. How about food-wise, Greg, are you hearing, are kids enjoying the food any better than they have in the past, or is it pretty much still cafeteria food and?
You hear a lot of the same comments.
Okay,
Are the totals up, I mean, as far as people, attendance,
or number of people,
that's what I'm trying to say, yeah.
number of people,
Utilizing it, thank you.
Probably would have that.
Lakeway too, that's right, you've got the same food vendor down there.
Yeah,
Our complication is our cafeteria and getting the food
Yeah.
to
Oh,
the students in a
yeah.
timely fashion. So the
Yeah.
biggest complaint would be that they don't have enough time to eat because the space isn't conducive to getting 50 kids through in 25
But those issues were there with the past vendor
Yeah.
too, okay.
One big difference this time is we can demonstrate that the vendor is in compliance with
right,
the federal rules and regs,
Great.
whereas in the past we
yeah, that's.
might not have been able to do that.
Well, and that's
Yeah.
worth it right there,
Yeah.
okay.
Hmm.
And then really, Tom, if I'm looking at this side of the sheet, you know, you've got $1 shy of $60,000 from the difference between 18 and 19, just with the adult ed, which I'm assuming is the new
Above the notch.
above the notch program, so that really is, if you look at our total at the bottom of 58,000, you know,
Yeah.
some of the other stuff is kind of just give and take adjustments, but,
And since there was only $1 in the budget for that
right,
from last year, you know that all those monies came from somewhere else within
Right.
the operating budget.
so that's good,
Thank you.
thank you.
Fuel costs.
And
That's a big one.
are we falling within range on those projects, like the windows that were done at the Academy building, and Dale, maybe you know this, are we falling within the range of what we budgeted or what we expected? We're not seeing anything that's been,
Well,
you know, we didn't discover something that was now increasing the price.
On the windows, we were under because we had requested $100,000 and it came in at 75.
Great.
That's the adjustment that we just
Yep.
made to write down the budget by $26,000 on
And it would,
windows.
but the other project that we've done that have been part of that same fund, we've all stayed within budget or better.
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
I mean, the infrastructure?
Yeah.
Yes,
Great.
Yeah.
we have.
The only one outstanding is cameras. And that'll be
They
this
ran,
week, next week.
started running wires today.
So we have them, it's just getting them installed.
Okay.
I believe in the manifest is for the equipment tonight and then the labor. Tom said he could run by next Friday, a special manifest, so it looks like it was paid in time for the April 1st deadline.
Okay. So when they have to come in and sign for that special manifest? Any sense
Yeah.
of when?
Well, there'll be some other state forms and things to do over the next 2 weeks,
Okay,
prior to your next meeting probably.
okay, thank you.
Nice having you back, Tom, to drill. Appreciate it.
So I think the next item on the agenda, if we're finished with the business report, any other further business?
Thank you.
Okay. We have the election day results on the website. As we all know, everything passed except Article 2. We need about 132 more votes swung one way and, or added to the positive vote. preliminary exit poll results, does anybody wanna talk about those? Steve, anybody?
Well, they put the results on the website, so I remember those, plus stood around for a while, so.
I think that there was some really good feedback given, whether we liked it or not.
Right.
Whether it was
Right.
kindly delivered or not, I think there was some really valid feedback that, we need to take with us moving forward. And, just one of the biggest things that I heard too in the aftermath, even after the exit poll, was nobody knew.
Yeah, it's
There was
amazing.
still a group of people who did not know where to get information from. And, reminding people about the website, and reminding people to put those letters to the editor and stuff it's taken a bit of communication. Channel 2 was brought up, or Granite State they wanted to know why we turned off Channel 2. I heard that a few times. So that's something that I think we need to resolve, is that communication on where Channel 2 is located now and where our meetings are, because no one could find our meetings.
It is amazing though, just standing there, because they tried not to do input because it wasn't our exit poll.
Right.
But just listening and the misinformation that get in people's minds, just blows mine. I don't know, it's a swamp, it's, it's so many negativity things that you could explain, but you can't do that all the time. These people came in with a preconceived idea, and I wish there was somehow to get all of that across like we're purposely neglecting Lakeway. I mean, that is so.
That was a huge one.
First of all, it's insulting, I'll go on camera to say that. So I'm saying that, I really think people in this town were wanting to build a new school. I really don't think they understood the whole concept, my face is getting hot, of how to get there, and boy, it wasn't for lack of trying. So, we had some unfortunate things happen at the 11th hour, which wasn't helpful or correct, and I think that hurt, and I don't think we should give up. And I'm done.
Well said.
One of the things I heard a number of times outdoors, I was outdoors most of the day, was that I ain't paying for no school. And it's hard to explain to them, yeah, you are. One way or another, you're paying for it. You're paying for it now, you're paying for it later, but you are paying for it. But I heard that so many times, I ain't paying for no school. Okay, you're a taxpayer, you're voting, you're paying it, believe it or not. Do you wanna pay more over the long run, or do you wanna pay less over the long run? That's the real question. But people aren't listening, they don't, I don't know how to get through to them. I thought we got through to most of the town, but we missed a whole bunch of people.
There was. I did ask a lot of people out there to join the next committee.
Yes, you did.
I did. I asked everyone who had an opinion, I said, you would be great on the next committee. Some, I think, will take us up on it, others didn't want to make eye contact after that. So.
That's funny.
Don't look her way.
True. I mean, some of them just went out, just looking at the door, and where's the door, and they were almost going into the manager's, Public Works Director's office.
But once again, I think it's important to thank all of the members that served on that committee
Yep.
and gave up a good portion of their time and lives, and
Yes.
administrators and everybody else. How many meetings, Patty? 30 meetings? So,
Since September.
Wow.
Yeah,
very, very grateful to everyone that was on that committee.
yes, I am too. They did an excellent job.
Oh, yes. So,
Okay. Next on the agenda is new business. It's Save Our Schools.
Yeah, you should have the flyer, I sent you an email several weeks ago. Right as we were beginning our February break, but the essence of it is a presentation of the school funding formula, how it works in New Hampshire. It's been done around the state, it's been done at Berlin, this neck of the woods, those are the communities that have posted it. This will be done in conjunction with SAUs 35 and 36. And basically it's a presentation that looks at how different and how out of balance things are in terms of wealth per pupil, the ability to, how different it is to fund a school in a place that has a high wealth per pupil versus one that doesn't. And you know, in how while there are mechanisms in effect to address that, they're not strong enough. They're not powerful enough to come even close to overcoming the inequities. And some of the things that in fact were there to help balance that disparity or have been chipped away, stabilization being one of those. So, this is a joint effort of 3 SAUs. It's a joint effort of many SAUs around the state. It's not a political event. I know there'll be those that'll say, oh, this is just to get more money, or this is just to do this or that. It's really, I think local taxpayers really need to at least take a listen to this. Not that they don't know this already, but just I think this only simply reiterates how local tax dependent the schools are in New Hampshire, and the effects of that, and how that does affect the ability to educate students. And I think, as I've said before, and I'll say it again, that you just want to boil this all down to a very simple concept. The quality of your education should not depend upon your address. How much we pay to educate you shouldn't depend on your address, and that's unfortunately here it does. And in any other state that depends heavily upon property taxes for funding. So, at the high school, in the cafeteria, I see a whole bunch of flyers there, and you know, it's up to us to get people out to this, and people that are, again, rightfully so concerned about their local tax bill and the effect it has on the economy and everything else.
So how is this being advertised other than those flyers?
Pierre Couture was going to put it into the paper. This week, I believe it'll be in the papers. And it's mostly, you know, we haven't done anything from the school yet because the board hasn't even talked about this other than me asking the board back in February about it. But, you know, I know Crystal has a very effective way to get this kind of information out via her Facebook. And I hope there are other, you know, obviously the school website and word of mouth and that kind of thing.
Would you be letting the selectmen know and the budget committee know?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep, and others, making sure they're aware of what it is and what it isn't.
Okay. So before we go ahead, I'd like to invite members of the Growth with Common Sense to our next board meeting, or to a separate meeting at a neutral location, and to discuss with them in public the information they mailed out. So, let's see what happens. Okay, next on the agenda is Kelly Nolan.
Enrollment for special education is holding pretty steady, right at 140 students. We have 4 students district-wide that are participating in the alternate state assessment for students on IEPs, 3 at Lakeway and 1 at the high school. And the window for that opened on March 11th. And I attached the Indicator 11 compliance review. That's for initial evaluations for special education for the 2018-19 school year. And we had 9 initial evaluations, and we were in 100% compliance. So, about that indicator or the process, but,
If my memory serves me, we've been doing quite well.
well, don't jinx it, Ian.
I will.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yes.
Kelly. Okay, Greg, are you gonna give?
I am, yep. So Jen's left the enrollment information there for you. Looks like we're up one student in the month of March. The selection committee is currently in the process of trying to find Mr. Shea's replacement. I know that process is going to continue. They did offer some interviews recently, but that process continues. Mrs. Noyes is send out some invites. You should have them to their first Music Honor Society on the 25th at 7 p.m. at the high school. She'd love to have your attendance there if you could do so. I will leave the athletic stuff up to Mr. Newfer since he showed up. Had the privilege of going down to Concord the other day to a presentation for Joe DePalma, who was recognized by the Daughters of American Revolution with their Good Citizen Award. He also placed first of all the New Hampshire recipients in an essay contest, so he'll go on to the regional competition, and he was provided with a small check for his success, so that was nice to see. The junior class recently visited Plymouth State University on March 7th, and safety-wise, we have a planned tabletop exercise with local emergency personnel, Grafton County Sheriff's, Homeland Security. On the 29th of March, we're going to do that at our rally point down the street, and with the goal of ensuring that we, one, have a rally point that's going to function appropriately, and two, that we're able to understand what's it going to take to reunify our students if we ever need to do so. And the last thing I'll cover is on March 20th, our students will be taking the Youth Risk Behavior Survey that gets given out every 2 years, so our kids will be doing that this week. Any questions?
No? Okay. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Greg. Alan?
So, most recently, we've been quite busy with school visits. We hope to be completing hosting schools by the end of the month. So a lot of schools, Power Center schools have been in the facility with their programs. CTC, Industry and Post-Secondary Connections, the North Country Workplace Education Program really is the internship program that we partner with us and 35, getting more involved with 36, of course. We'll be hosting a meeting here on March 28th. We invited a great deal of our internship partners, so it'll be interesting to see who shows up to help us guide that program into the future. And I just mentioned, because we host many speakers over the years, but Kyle Butt, who represents a new certificate program at White Mountain Community College, Industrial Mechanics, which leads to manufacturing. That's a new program, so we'll be speaking with some of our students in building trades, probably auto, and maybe some of Nathan Reed's students as well, to see if there's any interest there. You've heard me mention the career fair. It's scheduled for April 30th, usually hosted at the high school. Trying something very different this year. April 30th at Brent Woods, again including SAU 36, so I hope to have many more vendors there. Should be interesting.
The flyer for that's in the folder.
Yeah,
Put it in there
looks
today.
good, so I think
Girls in Technology Day is scheduled for this Friday. The weather looks good. The last 2 years has been canceled because of weather, so it does snow on March 20. Well, last year was the 23rd of March, but White Mountain Community College will have their open house scheduled for April 12th. We'll be bringing juniors and seniors. Good opportunity for seniors at that time. If they're interested in the program, they can enroll on the spot. And this is interesting about the Automobile Association. They're doing this kind of this town meeting, bringing people in from the North Country, all area industry partners and the Automobile Association. We're hosting this larger meeting, if you will, April 11th at our center. And there's some others around the state, but we'll be hosting the North Country, bringing industry partners together. Program improvement, just professional development, just to let you know that Nathan will be continuing some training through grant opportunities and Project Lead the Way. And it's important because we'll be able to, again, offer a high school level class in engineering, which we really want to. You've heard me mention about the Lego tools. We had really visitation from Lego representatives from Denmark. They developed some tools that could be used maybe 9th and 10th graders in the automobile field. Mr. Burdine had a meeting with all instructors in the state, and he'll be presenting that information to see if there's any interest around the state in that. Just some quick program updates. We've been requested, obviously we all know the story of the Rocks Estate and the fire. Apparently Lowe's is providing all the material, all the wood, had requested us to build a shed. We really do not have time, but they twisted our arms, and we are going to be doing it just to help out the community. And I did have mentions, one of our goals, industry recognized credentials. I was able to make some changes in our Perkins grant to allow our automotive students to take the ASE exam, so that's certainly a strong industry credential if they do well. And you know, the negative part about the industry recognized credentials that we want our students participating in, they all cost money. So hopefully through some Perkins grant we'll be able to continue that. And the Little Leopards, I just want to mention, the fun night was a huge success. Really want to thank Mrs. Martin and Lakeway teachers for doing some great activities with our soon-to-be kindergarten students and families. And that's it. Any questions at all?
Thank you. Dale?
Is it just me, or does it seem like when we get to me, I'm the only one that has bad news?
It's just you.
It's just me, okay. Like,
That was
I think I should go first.
That was nice
It's out of the way.
Flip of the coin.
Next,
It is what it is.
it is. Next facilities meeting,
It's
April
not pretty.
5th, 7:30. Vacation week, the Lakeway third grade roof repairs were completed, and I no more than finished this report and said that there were no issues. There were no issues where they repaired along the edges. However, as you can see in the pictures, at the bottom there, Mr. Stewart's room, which is below the third grade roof, he has now had 2 tiles come down because of leaks. And there is a drain in that area that has been cleared. He also has another leak that's forming by another drain by his Promethean board at the front of the room. Fortunately, when the one tile that fell when there were kids in the classroom, the kids were on the other side of the room and not on that side, but he does have a lot of equipment over there. And then the very next day, the front office, which is a separate roof, those are the 3 pictures. That is the new carpet that you see that's wet that we installed last summer. That roof on the front office is 40 years old last year. 1978 was the installation time. We did have the company come in and repair the holes that they found, and again, knock on wood, it's fixed that issue.
Not too hard.
No, don't, it'll fall over. So it's I guess an ongoing battle.
So, Dale, has anyone been up, and Crystal and I kind of talked about this a little bit last week, has anyone actually been up and looking to see if it's migrating, especially between that third grade wing and Mr. Stewart's room? and then you had that leak that was in the hallway a couple of weeks ago. Is it something that's like, it's run its course at this spot, so it's moving to this spot now, or?
So, Matt, Dave, Kathy, Alex, Kelly have all been on the roof. One of the issues is the area that they repaired is great. The other area has bubbled, so the water settles. It doesn't move, it doesn't, so we basically have to go up there every time it melts and use a broom to push it towards the drains. Otherwise it just sits, in certain areas.
Okay. So it's that many areas, it's not like it's.
So there's not any plumbing or up inside the tiles that's loose or?
There's no, I can share pictures with you, last week was not the first leak because the pipe is rusted, where it's connected to the wood, which goes up to the roof membrane, that we took pictures of, last week. There is some wet insulation up there that has since dried, and there doesn't appear to be any sign of mold. However, that's something we'll have to keep our eyes out for. But where they repaired along the wall seems to have fixed the issue in the hall where we had at one time 4 buckets collecting water.
Right.
So, but that was a gimmick, so we just wanted everybody to see it collect water.
Easy.
Just being honest. So, I was starting the RFP today, hopefully having it finished for the meeting tonight for the 3rd grade roof. I'm wondering if we want to, it's not completed, but if we want to look at the administrative offices and the main hallway and the main office to be included. Because the 3rd grade roof is 2 years newer than the main office. It's not that large of a stretch, I'm not sure it would affect that much, but if we would have a roof company already here, it might save us time and money.
And you've been leaking in that main hallway most of the winter, correct?
Every winter that I've been in this position, yes, it goes right along that, every room, all the way down to the office. Mainly, Mrs. Bromley's room, is the house.
When we did the infrared scans, it didn't show that that area was wet, do you remember?
No, so one of the things that's misleading on those, and maybe this is something we discuss for future, is they do it obviously when it's dry. If there hasn't been any rain or any leaks inside the membrane where it gets the insulation wet, it's always gonna come back dry. So, I don't know if it really would benefit us more to have visual inspections, because like the one that we found on top of the main office was a hole that was like 13, 14 inches long that had been gashed, and that's where the water was getting through.
What about the kindergarten wing?
Knock on wood, no issues.
So what's it gonna take to stop all of this? I mean, it seems like we hit fit here, and then it goes over here, and it goes there. What is it gonna take to stop all the water from coming in to the classrooms, and the tile falling down, and buckets on the floor, and?
Brand new roofs.
We have 4 roofs that are almost 40 years old that we
Okay.
can put off and put
All right.
off and put off.
4 flat roofs.
Yes.
Four flat roofs that
And
go
then
back.
the K-wing is gonna be 20 years old.
So are you saying that because they're 40 years old, that they all should have new roofs?
Yes,
To avoid all of this leaking and patching and all of that?
yeah, I mean, I think patching is a waste of money.
So
When
do
you're-
I.
When it's that old, if it was the
Right.
K-wing that's
That's where
20
I'm
years
headed.
old, I don't think that that's a waste of money. But we've more than got our,
We're using a Band-Aid, but we need a tourniquet here. We just need to fix this, I
Yeah,
would think.
I've talked to Dale about this a little bit, we need to put out an RFP for those roofs and.
The whole, all the roofs.
Yep, all except for the kindergarten.
the only other one that's not listed,
Mhm.
you know, what we've talked about is the gymnasium roof.
Mhm.
That was 1982, I believe.
Yeah, that one's
So,
amazing.
anyways,
It's too bad, but you know, at best case scenario, we're in that building at least till 2022 now, so, and we, obviously clearly it's not acceptable. So,
great.
I think you
that
can
was
go
my
for it.
So,
frustration coming out, but it just seems like we talk about this and talk, and I know it's budget constraints, I know that, obviously, or we go do it. But boy, I think we need to, I'll say that phrase, I think we need to do something rather than keep putting it off.
I agree. So
Well,
I will write the RFP.
We put it off in the hope that we could nurse it through till we get a new building. I mean, that's the balance we walk. And I think we know that the new building is delayed a bit now. And
I think budget had a lot to
Well,
do with
yeah, we
it
have
too.
some,
We didn't
had
have
some
the-
major things in the budget that
Yeah.
took precedence.
budget didn't help either.
Yeah.
It's a couple things.
Anyway, I'm done ranting.
So Dale, did we ever answer your question when you had asked whether or not it made sense to have,
I think Millie kinda said put all three in there.
just wanna make sure you
Because
forgot.
Yeah.
really on the same level,
Yep.
and it would make the most sense. The academy windows are completed,
And they look great.
the staff is extremely happy,
So aren't the students.
so, okay, so are the students.
One of the students, they
Oh,
know
they think
that
it's
They can actually see outside now.
Yeah.
That's great.
You
Energy
can,
positive.
you can tell, just the difference of walking in the room, the
The light.
Energy efficient.
energy efficiency, that, you know,
Oh,
there's no drafts,
Well, we had to turn down the heat.
had to turn down the heat.
Oh, yes.
So to give you an example, Mr. Mark's room, all the classrooms were set on around 80 over there to make them 70 with the old windows.
Yeah.
The new
Yeah.
windows, 80 was 80. So we had
That's
to lower them
great.
to 70, so
Couldn't save the curtains though.
couldn't save the curtains when they removed the curtain. I mean, I know that's in the budget.
Yeah.
Kelly and I have talked, and I've worked with a couple vendors in the last few weeks. Mr. Mark's room probably needs to be done sooner than next
Yeah.
year's budget, because he's on the sunny side of the building almost all day long. Am I correct, Kelly? Okay.
And he uses his Promethean board a
Which-
lot, and he
Can't
can't.
use
see
it.
can't
it.
see.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I will hopefully have some solutions sooner rather than later. For the high school, the fourth floor roof was repaired. Again, no subsequent leaks since then. The HVAC unit on the cafeteria was replaced. So hopefully our end of year meetings can be held in there and be comfortable. The next item, and this is just to get the conversation started, the current stairs that we use for graduation, you guys have probably all seen them. To use the word cumbersome is probably an understatement. We use them for basically 10 days out of the entire year, and then they sit in a storage. They currently take up half of a classroom currently for storage. So one of the things that Alex and I started talking about was how could we get a more economical size set of stairs that would mount and detach and be able to store easier, and also be used for more things. If you guys go to plays, they make their own stairs to go up onto the stage from the floor, because we don't drag those out and put them together. So we've worked with a couple vendors. The lowest price so far that we've got, and there's a sample, I put the picture in of what it would kind of look like. It's more of an elegant staircase. I've talked to Jen. She's would be in favor if we could find the funds, and I can tell you from a custodial standpoint, they would absolutely love the idea of something that's movable as opposed to that. It takes 4 custodians right now to put the current stairs in place.
Do they collapse the new, I mean, I'm looking at.
It would be it'd be 2 sections, they would connect together and then they would detach, there'd be 4 wheels on each section, and then they would also lock to the stage. So there would be a lock.
But for storage, I guess is what you're.
Yeah,
They would come apart and they would slide through a regular door.
Oh,
And they would take up, 10 square feet versus 150 square feet or 200 square feet.
So I see a picture of 2 sets of stairs, is that gonna be 2 sets of stairs?
No, the bigger one is
The one
yeah, that shows you like a smaller.
yeah, it does.
Um,
okay.
So,
What would we do with the old ones?
Yeah,
Bonfire.
I would recommend at at homecoming, they would probably really, they would be a good starter. I think, and I'm not trying to take anything, Mr. Bernard had a great idea.
Yeah.
We just don't have the space to keep them for one,
okay.
and it's 8 hours of labor, it's 4 people, 2 hours to put those in place.
I never.
And there's no rails, obviously, to go up and down the stairs.
No, we need
So-
safer, yeah.
Anyways, that would be, if you would give
So
us
what,
permission to work together. It's $5,800.
58, did I
Bill.
miss that?
Yeah, it's in the
Oh.
last part of the report before the picture.
Okay.
So, if,
5800.
if I could work with Jen and Steve and
Oh, there you
Tom
go.
and, attempt to make that work, a lot of people would be appreciative of it. And I think it would look better. I think it would look better for
The covered and
drama.
everything, right? I can see a picture, but it's really
Yes.
blurry.
It's
The
very, very.
carpeting and all that, and the railings, it makes a lot of difference.
Yes.
So maybe you could sell the other stairs to somebody else that might need them.
Like,
Who knows, I mean, ask out there.
I will. I'll do any of the things that you want. I'm just,
Yeah, because we'll have to see where we can.
Good luck with that.
Find those funds, too.
Yeah.
the deal would be as is. They take them as is. They
Well,
follow the instructions that are written on the back of each leg to put them together. Yes, or where, yeah. Yeah, I feel like I'm
Sold to
going,
the highest bidder.
okay. So the lead testing, when I wrote the report, the results were not back. They came back this morning, shared them with Steve, all the board members have their results. I just shared a template letter with Jen, Crystal, Kelly, and Steve as to what the New Hampshire DES has on their website. We have 5 business days to notify parents and students of the areas that did not pass the testing. I don't know if we want to go into more. I can tell you there's been questions by the staff already that we can either address now or privately, however you prefer.
Was it announced to all of the staff?
It was.
Yeah, I think use the.
Well, because we had to put
template.
stickers on the things,
Oh,
and
that's
when
good.
stickers go on, and then people start questioning, and then,
Yeah.
you know, you have staff members that drink out of those faucets on a daily basis, so
Right.
now they're obviously concerned.
Are they mostly in the classrooms?
At Lakeway, yes.
So can we have those turned off?
You can shut them off, but you're still not in compliance.
No, I know, I'm just saying so that that neutralizes that altogether, so that no one is even, you know, tempted
they can
to
be shut
turn
off
them
at
on,
the
if
bottom.
we can have those shut off, because,
how do you get in compliance?
So we have 30 days, so the first step was we had to visibly label all of the, there was 37 faucets in all of the buildings,
Out of,
207
okay,
that didn't pass.
no,
That say that they're non-drinking faucets, that's all it says, so
Oh.
that's our coverage, that it's non-drink. So tonight, we have to decide, the vendor, I shared very end of the day today, he recommends we replace faucets, valves, and the tubing, to see, and then retest. We have 30 days to retest, or 30 days for the state to accept our plan, and then also testing, and then send it off. We still have the deadline, the same deadline of June 30th to be in compliant, but the state does have our reporting saying we're not in compliant at this time.
do we have a regulation about, as to how many faucets that we have to have in a certain area, drinking fountain?
I don't think,
So if we didn't fix them and just took them out,
but it's the drinking fountains all tested fine.
the drinking fountains are fine, it's all
just the
sinks.
it's all what?
Sinks.
Cafeteria.
Oh,
Cafeteria was fine. Sinks were, basically every classroom at Lakeway has a sink.
Mhm.
And there was a
okay.
total of 14, I believe.
wow.
The high school, there were 20 deficiencies, only one was in a classroom that's used, the other was in the chemistry and the science rooms, which there were 17 faucets in those 2 rooms combined. And the answer is they don't use them, so when they turn it, who knows how long it had set before that.
They never use them, so those could be shut off easily then, obviously.
Yeah.
And any that can't be shut off, we could get just a basic filter to put on them in the meantime too.
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking, how do you fix
Yeah.
that? Usually when you have a contamination of water, you have your water test, your samples, and then you have to treat that with a system.
Right.
But you're saying these are individualized from each sink, so something in that tubing and in that faucet is causing them to be contaminated.
So he believes that it's either the brass valves,
Ah,
and the fitting,
Yeah.
that would cause it. He said that would be step one that he would recommend for us, because the only other option, other than removing completely, would be, replacing the entire copper piping, which is where the solder would most likely, have caused it.
And of course, the DES website, they have all of this information.
They do, but they have all the lettering information
Right.
that we have to send out, as well
Right.
as,
And it says to remediate will commonly consist of replacing offending fixtures for new low lead faucets. So unless you just shut them off and nobody can use them.
Well, and in the meantime, if we do need to leave one or two on just for accessibility, because, you know, in
Yeah.
the first grade and second grade, they're still doing messy stuff too. They need to wash their hands, they need to have access to that. So even if we went to Lowe's and Home Depot and got a filter to put on them just for
Yeah.
them to wash their hands and stuff, that would.
I don't think so. I think you go through.
No,
Is there
in the
a filter?
meantime, that these are being
I'm
he and I
fixed.
didn't talk much about that. I do believe, and Ann, you can correct me if I'm wrong if you've read it, once it's been tested, we have to repair it, we can't
Right.
just shut it off. Like, we can't remove them and say that we're
No, but it's
compliant,
No,
we have to spend
But
the
until
money.
somebody
But
gets
you
in
have
there.
to do
Right.
certain things first, if that doesn't remedy it, then you're gonna have to change everything.
Correct. Those are the only two options that
Okay.
that he had.
And then they get back and retest it after that, so I'm thinking.
So we can't abandon them.
You cannot abandon, once they've been tested, you.
Okay.
So one of the things that we didn't test was at Lakeway, each classroom has a, like a little fountain.
Yeah.
Those are all shut off, so those were not tested.
So they're already shut off.
Shut off.
It's too bad the ones in the science, when we're not even using.
Yeah, Vanessa says she uses it very, very little.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
No, but just in the interim until they get fixed, we can turn them off, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I got
Off, yes.
Yeah, just,
We just cannot remove them.
right,
No.
exactly.
But you eliminate the risk of students
Exactly,
continuing to
And
drink
if
from
you
another
have staff
faculty.
that's already concerned, that, I mean, that's, you know, the more proactive we are.
Right, yeah.
I know that the EPA has a really good poster, I haven't looked at DES, but they have a really good communications poster too that can be disseminated to staff as they're talking to parents too, because as soon as those parents get the letter, the phone's gonna start ringing.
Well, here's some of the stuff right here.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying, there's a whole training thing.
They have 6 different monitoring modules that you can, like assigning roles and what to do, and I would just go to the website and get them on. So, pretty easy to do.
Okay.
And there does have to be a letter written and sent home.
That's correct, we have 5 business days
Yeah.
today.
They're all over.
So there's a sample letter out there, so I brought one with me.
So if any staff member was to ask me about being tested, whose responsibility is to pay for that? Us?
What do you mean,
Yeah.
If
exposure?
they want to, if they want to be tested for
Their
lead,
exposure, I mean, they all have insurance, why doesn't their insurance plan will probably pay for it?
I'm sure we'd have to support that though.
I'm just saying, like, cause that, there was 2 staff members already
Yeah.
that admitted
As
to.
an employer, we would have to.
Yes,
I just wanna know how to answer the staff
we
questions
will,
when
we
they
will
ask.
cover,
Mm.
And then the last thing,
or whatever the insurance doesn't cover.
the technology, we did have the RFP that was out from February 1st until last Friday. We received 8 bids on Thursday and Friday, which I will present at a later time, once I have more time to dissect, but that was the replacement of the interactive boards and purchase options, lease options, so forth.
Good.
But Matt nor I have had the time to, we've looked at them, but we haven't broken all of them down. So, but we did get 8 bids, which was very nice to see,
That's great.
Good.
so,
8 written bids,
yes.
Okay.
All right, not bad news for one day.
Oh, wow. It's good you,
Can I be excused now?
hey, we had good news on the Academy windows now, come on.
I know, that's what we,
That was
I
good.
mixed that in the middle, you
Yeah.
know?
Long day, thanks Dale.
No, thank you.
okay. Crystal,
Okay, I don't have too much on there today. So our numbers are down a bit, but since I hit send on this report, we've had 5 kids register, so,
Wow.
yep, never ends. We had Bill Church again last week from Whimsy to help us with our computer science curriculum, which when I initially presented it, the state said we needed to have it prepared for 2021. It's now 2020, so they backed it up a little bit. So he'll come one more time this year, and we should be pretty close on a direction there for our computer science curriculum. And I did want to just mention in there, our 3rd grade team, and actually an additional 6th grade team member will be presenting at the National UDL Conference, so that's a pretty big honor to have their project accepted. They had to submit it early, their ideas, and they were asked to present with a video and live presentation. So they're nervous, but they're really excited to be doing that. As long as I can get Janet Grappo on the plane, we'll be good. Not a big fan of flying, so.
We have means to do that.
We had 4 DI teams from Lakeway compete 2 weekends ago, and 3 of those 4 made it to states, so I included some pictures in there. States is the 30th of March, I believe, so they're geared up for that, very excited. Winter program has ended, thanks to everybody for help with that. It really went off great this year. We had over 230 kids outside of Lakeway at programs this year, so.
Oh, good.
And we've actually already gained some new programs for next year based on the location. There, I guess there's a yoga opportunity for next year, and it was nice to see people reaching out to us to see if they could do a program next year, so. Family Literacy Night is, that's not the right date. As I'm looking at it.
Next Thursday.
28th, right?
Next Thursday.
Yeah, missed a digit there. From 5 to 6 for grades K through 2, the book fair is also open starting this Friday through the Literacy Night. And I forgot to mention there, Jay Appicelli will be there with information on restorative justice for parents. So that'll be a nice little addition. Our 5th graders went to Canton courtesy of the Secret Sock Society again this year. They plan for and pay for everything from head to toe for our entire 5th grade to go. So thank you to them for providing that opportunity. We had some brand newbies out there on the mountain this year, quite a few of them actually, so it's nice that they have that opportunity. And Dale gave you the pictures, but I just wanted to make sure you saw those. That was our latest and greatest decor at Lakeway. And that's it.
Can I ask a question? Did anybody come in special to take the water out of that office carpet?
We dried it up with a carpet dryer,
Yeah.
so it did dry up, so I'm hopeful that we got to it quickly enough that it won't have lasting issues.
Okay.
And Dale, I don't know what the last count of tiles was, it's over 400 that we need to replace.
Almost 500 stained tiles.
I put a hold order on ceiling tiles until we're through
Yeah,
the
that was
roof
good.
repairs,
Yeah.
because it's just silly to be doing that, but. So I don't know what the direction moving forward will be if we wait till the roof is repaired to fix it. I just feel like it's not a good use of our time or money to continue to replace tiles that we don't know are protected from above yet. So I know it's an eyesore, but
Well, I think better get the roof repaired and then put the tiles up.
I mean, Scott had started replacing the ones in the hallway, and literally the next day they were brown and down again, so.
Yeah,
this doesn't make any sense, so.
Nice talking that company though. That time.
Really? Okay. Is that it, Crystal?
Yep, I'm all
All right. David?
Yeah. You know, Dale, I can try and drum up some bad news for the next meeting if you want.
Take your light off.
Don't feel so alone.
No, it's a good island.
I'm gonna stand up because I can't see some of you guys. So, the winter sports season just ended. Spring sports just started today, actually. We actually had a really successful winter sports season, competitively and academically with a lot of the students. So I'll just go through some of the accomplishments that they had. Winter Spirit, they did a fantastic performance at both the preliminary and the final rounds of the NHIAA tournament. And they finished as the runner-up by 1 point. And so they did a great job. which I don't know the scoring each year, but I've been told that's really, really close. So they did a good job. The girls and boys alpine ski teams both finished 6th place at their championship meets. And Zach Horn finished in the top 10, which meant he got to go to the Meet of Champions, where he finished 23rd. So did a good job there. And that Meet of Champions is against all of the divisions, every skier in the state of New Hampshire. Boys basketball finished the regular season in 2nd place with only a few losses. And they did a great job in the tournament, but came up a little short in the championship game against Epping. So again, they got runner-up as well, the boys basketball team. And then girls basketball, they won the Division 4 championship, which capped off an undefeated season for them. And they were the only undefeated team this year of any varsity teams in New Hampshire. And their JV team was actually undefeated as well against the JV opponents. So they did a fantastic job as a team. Individually, we had Granite State Conference players, which is the basically all the northern schools up here in D4 that we compete against. And so all conference athletes were Zach Horn, Jasmine Brown, and Parker Briggs. And Lainey Hadlock and Danny Kupkowski both were the Granite State Conference Player of the Years for basketball. And then All-State, which is voted in by the Coaches Association, the New Hampshire Coaches Association for this particular sports. Lainey Hadlock, she got first team All-State, and she was voted as the Division 4 Player of the Year in the state of New Hampshire. And she also won the Jack Ford Scholar Athlete of the Year award, which is given to one boy and one girl in each division. Jasmine Brown was 2nd team All-State, and Maddie Dumont was also 2nd team All-State. Danny Kupkowski and Parker Briggs were both 1st team All-State, and Jason Brammer was honorable mention All-State. So plenty of athletes representing our school and community really well. And then they do, the Coaches Association puts on a couple of all-star games. And so they do a senior game. This year was down in Moultonborough. And Coach Pryor and Coach Hadlock coached the girls north against the girls south team. And Lainey and Gabby Levitt both played in that and represented us well. And then for the boys, Jason Brammer and Christian Silvera were both invited to that. And Jason played, Christian was going to, but because he suffered a concussion in the championship game, he wasn't able to do that. So, and then there's the second All-Star game is the D3, D4 All-Star game, which is hosted in NHTI. And Lainey and Maddie played in that, as well as Jason Brammer for the boys. And Coach Pryor was one of the 2 coaches of that team as well. So a lot of representation this year from our phenomenal athletes and coaches for winter sports for Littleton, kind of across the state. We just got back on Friday with the inaugural drive of the district van. And so that went well. Coach McCarthy and I took, we took 4 students to the Student Athlete Leadership Conference, which was at Mount Washington Hotel. And Jason Brammer also attended as a state leader, so a state student athlete leader. There they interacted with over 500 student athletes from across New Hampshire, learned valuable lessons about mental health and wellness, substance abuse, leadership, positive communication, having winning attitudes, and many other topics. So it was a real successful event for them.
Who went from?
So in addition to Jason, who was a student leader, we also had Natalie Rossi attend, Lauren McKee, Christian DeMorris, and Quentin Eastman. So those were the 4 that went. And then we have 10 scholar athletes that will be recognized from Littleton in a few weeks. The NHIAA will host the Scholar Athletes Ceremony on Tuesday, April 2nd at the Capitol Center for the Arts in Concord. Those 10 seniors are Maddie Dumont, Joe DePalma, Lainey Hadlock, Gabby Levitt, Vivi LeMay, Tyler Moreau, Nicole Piette, Lexi Sparks, Lexi Walker, and Brandon Wyman. And so they'll all be recognized for their accomplishments at that event. And to earn that distinction, they must play 2 sports for at least 2 years. And they have to maintain a B+ average, being in the top 25% of their class, or reaching 1,500 on the SAT or 24 on the ACT. So they've got to meet some good requirements to have that honor. So that'll be on April 2nd. And then with spring sports, the high school sports are starting today. They've gotten into practicing, and they all have good numbers as far as the signups went, and so we'll know kind of the exact rosters in a week or so. But they all have good numbers, and so we're just hoping for dry weather.
A field with no snow.
Yeah. That's about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Dave.
you.
It was all good news.
Yeah.
Good news.
Maybe associated with some good news, yeah.
Associated, that's good.
Yeah, he was the coach, he is the coach. So. Give him his due here.
So I guess Melanie, you're on.
So, let's see, at Lakeway, our Title I and Special Education team is currently working to revise our RTI, response to intervention model. We're looking at like a 3-pronged approach, so looking at the overall structure of the RTI model and the assessments that we use to gather data on students, as well as the interventions that we put in place. Our goal is to be able to gather more detailed assessment information so that we could provide more targeted interventions, and not just in the Title I setting or the special education setting, but also in the classroom as well. And grade level teams are reviewing competencies and indicators and beginning those discussions for any modifications that will be made for implementation next year. And up at the high school, the juniors will be taking the SAT on Wednesday. And this is the state assessment, so for 11th grade. And they'll be taking reading, writing and language, and math, and then they also have to take the essay section. And that'll be about 4 hours Wednesday morning. We are in the process of drafting a school-wide reassessment policy that the plan is to do a trial implementation for our 4th quarter this year, and then make any modifications we need for next year. And then vertical teams are also, just like the elementary school, are beginning those discussions on any modifications to competencies and indicators for next year. And then professional development, our middle and high school UDL team just participated this past Friday in the first round of instructional rounds. And what that is this time it was led by our UDL implementation specialist, but it allows teachers to observe their colleagues and not looking at individual teachers per se, but with a goal. So in this case, we were looking for expert learning and being able to make generalized statements about, in this case, about expert learning at the school as a whole, and so that we could make plans for improving that in the future. And we will probably, moving forward, use that instructional round procedure to allow teachers to get into their colleagues' classrooms, because you can really learn a lot from watching your peers. Lakeway had 6 more teachers and paras complete the Building Math Minds Number Sense 101 over February break. And so kudos to them for taking the time on their vacation to do that math training. And so, and we also have our 4th grade team who is doing the fractions training. They're doing it on kind of like a bi-weekly basis after school. And then our upcoming staffed development day on the 29th, we have Karen Hess, who is performance assessment and rubrics consultant, coming to work with our teachers that day, and she will split her time beginning in the morning for 3 hours at the elementary school,
and then she'll spend 3 hours with the middle and high school staff in the afternoon.
Okay,
Thanks. I just have a question. Go ahead. Regarding the reassessments,
Yes,
is that going to be, is that at the elementary level too, like for 5th and 6th grade, or is it 7th through 12th right now?
currently it's what we're drafting is just 7 to 12. So looking at our reassessment retake policy
Right.
and building in factors that allow the student to really take the initiative on developing the plan, so that they will have its success when they actually take the reassessment.
And so at the middle school and high school, how's it working now? Are the teachers just kind of taking it as a student by student basis and kind of playing around with it?
Correct, student by student basis, and we don't have a universal school-wide policy.
Right.
So that's one thing that we really want to put in place
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well. So students know that no matter what teacher, what course, this is your reassessment policy.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
The SATs,
mhm.
they're not required to be taken by everybody, right? They're a volunteer thing?
No, now they are required.
They are?
Yes, so our state assessment that all, well, students in grades 3 through 8 and then 11th grade take every spring. For 11th grade, the SAT is now the state assessment, so it is required. And the state pays for it.
thank you. Any more questions for Melanie? Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Committee reports, personnel, we have 3 job description updates.
We do.
We do.
We worked on the administrative assistant, the payroll and benefits, and the middle school and high school counselor, and middle school and high school counselor student assistant program. Pretty like,
Right.
3 very long,
yes,
detailed
Yeah.
job descriptions.
a lot of input for a lot of people. So, I don't know, are we asking for approval tonight?
Yeah.
I lost track, yeah.
Yeah.
Bringing those for your approval. If you've had a chance, they were on the drive, if you had a chance to look at them. We mean Steve as well, we tried to bring in people that had expertise in the areas to get their input and help us with them, so. A lot of time was spent on, anyway.
I guess I just have a question, we have two job descriptions, one is the middle school, high school counselor. So then you have the second one, the middle school, high school counselor student assistance program.
Yeah.
So we're saying that that is 2 different people?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's one person currently, as you know, as a staff. It's a position that combines
Yeah.
those 2 areas.
No, but we have a high school counselor who's retiring.
Right.
Correct.
So is that position being renamed middle school, high school, so that that person is over 7 through 12? One question.
The one that we're hiring for now, we wrote the job description so that it could be. We'll see how that shakes out, and frankly, some of that will be shaped by the candidate we ultimately hire, the strengths that person brings as well. But how the whole counseling services is configured is still in progress, I guess, is the best way to say it.
Well,
That reflects kind of what it is now.
well, the idea is to have it, have 2, one for certain grade and one for another grade.
Right.
And I think we agreed that it would be beneficial that whoever is in either of these positions has the knowledge and expertise to
Yeah.
cross over if they needed to.
That's true too.
So that, looking forward to the future, you know.
Certainly the one that doesn't have the SAP piece of it is heavily weighted on the college admissions piece of it,
Right.
which is a huge part of that position. But I hear what you're saying, and in the future it may look a little bit. we may call it something a little bit different if in fact that's what the person that comes in actually ends up doing, is work on high school only.
So right now you have a middle school counselor job description and a high school counselor job description.
Yeah, we have a person that is counseling only, right now, at least is middle school, high school. Then the other person is a counselor slash student assistance program in middle school, high school.
Okay, but the two current ones you have for a middle school counselor and another one for high school counselor, those are being
There's actually two people around.
done away with?
No, there's two people that basically cover all the counseling services, 712, plus the college admissions services, 712, plus doing some work with drug prevention, treatment, those kinds of things. It's probably best to look at it almost like that. There's two people that are covering those broad areas. So we write the job descriptions that kind of reflect everything that those people do.
I understand it, but now you're gonna have 3 job descriptions for counselors.
No.
You're gonna have a middle school counselor job description, you're gonna have a high school counselor job description, and then you're gonna have a middle school, high school counselor job description.
No, what we have currently is a high school guidance counselor,
Okay,
and then the other person is a middle school guidance counselor, half-time, with
okay,
the student assistance, part as the other half-time.
okay. And they're staying.
Well, the one individual is retiring,
Okay,
and that's part of why we're bringing this up again and reviewing it and all, because of that as well.
I think what they're trying to do is say that whoever is the person that fulfills the current high school counseling position that's retiring will also be between 7 to 12,
okay.
if I read it correctly.
So the one that's retiring, that job description will be dissolved, correct?
Well, yeah, that's what we're trying to clean it up,
Exactly.
yes, you're right, yeah.
Exactly right.
Okay.
There was redundancy on these, and we just tried to, housekeeping, clean it up too. But you're right, it will be gone.
Keep in mind that that transition started this year, so those counselors are not middle school and high school. Mrs. Jovier is doing 7th grade, Mr. Shea is doing seniors, but they split the alphabet, they're doing some middle school
Yeah,
and
by
high school.
alphabet, that's right. But right now, they're interviewing for a position for the, Mr. Shea's job was retiring.
And that's not the one that's got the student assistant.
Correct.
That's the one that's just a
Right.
high school, middle
Right.
school counselor.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Are you filling a position for the student assistant also?
It's already.
It's already there, we just
It's
doing the
already
job
there.
Okay, just doing the job.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ralph, what we're in the process of doing is reviewing and revising
The job
job
description.
descriptions for current times.
Okay.
So sometimes you'll see a job description come across, but there's no new hire there, it's just cleaning up that job description.
All right.
That was kind of confusing, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure if you put in job description, you're gonna get rid of the old ones.
Yeah,
Oh,
And you don't
that's
have
the
a
idea.
whole bunch of
And
old job
typically, if a
descriptions.
job
No.
description is changed
I'll
during the
show
school
you where
year,
to,
they will come to us and say, this is what we would like to do in a typical situation.
Okay.
I'll show you.
and the other one is the administrative assistant payroll and benefits, and that's, again, someone is retiring, Debbie's retiring. Sorry.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to accept the 3 job description updates?
I get move to accept the middle school and high school counselor student assistance program, administrative assistant, payroll benefits, hiring, and student services, and middle school and high school counselor job descriptions.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So facilities, we're gonna have it,
April 5th,
we're still gonna have it April 5th, as I sent a memo to you earlier today.
yes.
Okay. And then policy would have a meeting Wednesday, I think. All right, so superintendent's report.
Okay. Another van report. I took the van today with 3 students invited to Laconia. For Skilled USA, basically where students they go through a number of stations there and show their knowledge of basic skills as it relates to, in this case, auto technology. It was at the Lakes Region Community College. Fabulous facility, 17 bay garage, 16 lifts. Yeah, it was an amazing campus, all new. I did take a little bit of time to walk around the campus a bit too. I spent most of my day with Mr. Bodine and the kids, so that's good. I know the van sat for a while for the timing when we got it, and everything else didn't work out great. It's a shame we didn't have it in August, September, October, but we didn't. But now we're certainly using it a lot, and going forward, I think we have at least one more trip scheduled this week for it, and perhaps 2. So it's already beginning to pay for itself. These are some booklets I'll pass around. Administrative team has seen these. We'll see some more tomorrow. Actually, I'll be happy to. If you have a few of you have them, pass out to anyone here that wishes to have them. I say we're going to meet tomorrow and go over these 2 as administrative team, but this is simply a document put together. It's actually for a document of this complexity and in covering something that's fairly extensive. This is a very succinct, user-friendly, well-done document, I think. And really, it simply covers the process of the expectations in terms of professionals holding a license. The thing that's important too, though, is that this is primarily covering those with licenses, working in our schools, working with our kids. But also, one thing that applies to everybody are reporting requirements. And there are reporting requirements regardless of the position that an individual holds. So, if someone in certain non-certified position within the school, fail to meet certain standards with respect to conduct and ethics, then there's actions that can be taken, but they have no certificate, they have no license per se that's in jeopardy. A professional educator, on the other hand, a teacher, administrator, does have a license. And in certain violations of the code could result in that license being rescinded. So that's what's important. And then, as I said already, anyone who's has knowledge of or misconduct by anybody must report it. So we'll be sharing this with teachers, administrators a little bit more, and certainly our other employees. This is something I spoke to now almost 2 years ago, and it's finally come to fruition. I was told 2 years ago, expected within a year. It took almost 2, but it is a finished product. We talked about the election results a little bit earlier. Just a few reflections, I think, on that. I think that there's a lot of good that came out last Tuesday. But, we don't always get everything the first time through. I think sometimes I think the first reaction, especially in something like this, is to look at, so how do we change those votes, or how do we change those, I can get 132, 138, or whatever it is, those people voted no, how do we convince them that we were right? And to change from no to yes, and of course that's one approach. But I think as we all talked about another approach we'll look at carefully, and I'll certainly suggest is we would look at what is it about what was presented that they don't agree with? What is it about what was presented that could be different? What are some changes that can be made? There's certain things we can't do a lot about. It costs a lot of money to build a new school. We can't do much about that. We can do the best we can to keep the price down. We can lobby for state building aid, we can make time things so we are eligible for state building aid. But there's no way to put this, even with state building aid, this is gonna be a massive, expensive project, the one that's gonna take a great effort and sacrifice by the community. But that being said, we have to try to make this doable, it makes sense. I think there's a tremendous amount of work by Ralph now as a board member, but is by the chair of the LEFAC, Ralph Bolt, others that are involved, Tom Flaherty, and a number of other people. We had several people there, I think all day at the voting, that were helping with Sadie Morris, that was helping with the exit polling and so on. Bottom line is a lot of work went into this, and we have certainly a lot of work remains. Budget Committee, and LIDC, and others, we again supported the effort. I want to acknowledge, and I also think it's important to thank the voters who came out. A little over 1,100 voters who came out, regardless of how they voted. They voted yes, no, voted for the project, voted not or not for the project, whether they voted for the teachers or not the teachers' contract, or even the general budget. I appreciate people who come out, take the time to vote, do their civic duty. You know, voting is something that people have died for over the years to make that possible in this country, and I served to make this possible, so I thank the people that did that. And board, I know, will have to make some decisions as the path that they choose to go forward with the process, but it's you know, it's certainly, we certainly did a lot of good. I think got the topic of Lakeway well within the community conscious and conversation once again, not that it's ever quite gone away from the past. The teacher's contract and budget, again, I'm very happy those two passed. I can't say how happy I am with those two passed, particularly the teacher's contract. We have an excellent professional teaching staff. The proposal that was brought before the voters this time was a significantly smaller proposal that was voted down a year ago. And I think for the general morale and I guess reaffirmation, confirmation of our teachers, it was great that passed. And I'm very, very happy and thankful to those who supported that. So that's all I have for my report.
Okay, thank you. So the next item on the agenda is a non-public session. I believe we do have to go in for a short time. So,
I'm getting there.
Oh,
My computer's not
shoot,
cooperating.
I had it in front of me.
Oh, here we go.
Patty got the
Thank you.
cheat sheet.
I'm still on the SOS. I can't seem to get off of it. Let's see, I'm making a motion to enter into non-public session under paragraph 2, section 3 of the RSA 91A:3 of the right to know law for number 2,
I think so. There's a
hiring of any person as a public employee. Number 3, matters which if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the board. Taking with us the superintendent.
Yeah, and Tom, please.
And Tom and Patty.
Patty, yeah.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Greg Cook.
Ralph Hawkins?
Millie Nelson.
Tim Woodson.
And Megan.
Thank you for your reports, everyone.
Thank you.
Keep us in the loop.
Thank you all.
Now,